So this past weekend, I was in Pittsburgh. I think
Yeah.
you and I had an eventful weekend, Connor. I briefly visited Connor, actually. I was there to see my sister and brother-in-law, but I did pay my respects to Connor, of course, because I was in Pittsburgh.
For my passing.
You have a very impressive place in Pittsburgh. I was very impressed, particularly with the ceilings.
They're very
They're
tall.
actually as high as Connor says.
Yeah.
On one episode, he said he had like 20-foot ceilings. I was just like, I feel like that's a bit of an exaggeration, but
I measured.
They
They're
are.
15. They're 15. They're really high.
They're very
but they're not
tall.
20. Yeah.
For context, I've been to Connor's place, and his bathroom has a set of walls that go about 7 feet up, and then it's just a hole. Like if you could jump 7 feet, you could jump right into the bathroom. There's no, roof on it.
No. The bathroom's
there
not
roof?
like that. The bathroom walls go to the ceiling. The closet and
The
bedroom
closet,
walls
bedroom
only
walls.
go.
Okay.
Well, the bedroom walls only go like a little under 6 feet up. Like I can see over them when I'm
Yeah.
just walking. The bathroom walls. The bathroom has privacy, sort of. There is
Sort
a
of.
hole through the hall closet that you can see into the bathroom because they like cut a hole to fit the washer and dryer in there because that's non-standard. Most of the units in this building don't have that.
Nice.
But yeah, visited Connor, got some really good Mexican food. Then I hung out with my sister and brother-in-law, and I gotta say, we went to do mini golfing at Putt Shack, and
Saw you kicked
that
kicked can.
evening I set the high score for the entire day. I was at the top of the leaderboard,
Dude, you must have
and I
lost.
gotta say that's like a top 3 life accomplishment for a fella such as myself. Because I'm not good at mini golf at all. I don't know what
Apparently the
happened
best
that
in the
day,
burg.
that hour. I somehow locked in. 5 out of my 9 holes were holes in one.
That's crack.
So I
That's
just
nuts.
I was dialed like never before. So that was a huge highlight. I was really happy about that. And I took a picture of it and everything.
I saw
I was stoked.
saw the socials.
But yeah, you also had an eventful weekend, Connor.
Yeah, I participated in Global Game Jam. For the uninitiated, that's I think the world's biggest game jam. And it is global. It's a worldwide thing. And there was a Pittsburgh site. Me and my buddy Ed went to participate. We teamed up with 3 other people, and you make a video game in allegedly 48 hours. We actually got a little less than that because of the way the site was set up. But that was fine. I did a bunch of these in college and had a bunch of fun with it. I used to pull all-nighters to get these done. I wasn't doing anything like that. I got 8 hours of sleep every night, or at least I was in bed for 8 hours. I drank an unhealthy amount of caffeine and everything working on this game, so I didn't actually sleep terribly well. But it was fun. We got a game finished. I made some friends that I would like to keep in touch with. And I don't know. I think Ed had a good time. I had a good time. He actually stayed with me this weekend. So it was pretty good. I had a lot of people in my home this weekend. It was nice.
Was your home like the base of operations, or?
No. We were at Carnegie Mellon. Me
Oh,
and
that's
Ed
cool.
Just crashed here, obviously.
And that's like,
not
I
far.
think that's the best game development college in the country.
Well,
Yeah,
Pretty
didn't
sure.
they used to hold it in like a convention center in Pittsburgh? Because I remember when I went up in 2019, it was in a
it
convention
was at an
center.
auditorium at the college. I don't know what they used
Yeah.
to do because this
was
is
like-
the first Pittsburgh one I've been to. But
Yeah,
it was really fun.
It was in like a convention center, and it was the site was open 24/7.
I will say the competition was steep at this. I was actually working with a guy who works at Shell Games who was like regaling me. He'd worked at Disney, I think, before that. Like he had the list of games he'd worked on was like nuts. It was really cool talking to him and somebody else who'd worked at a couple places in industry and then somebody with no experience at all. So it was
I mean, I love that. I
yeah.
love that it pulls people from all kind of walks of game development.
yeah, it was really fun. I think we as a team, I think maybe underestimated ourselves. There's a funny engineering phrase. If 3 pregnant women can't make a baby in 3 months, which is to say, like
That's a crazy phrase.
the game idea we chose was gonna take all weekend, but we probably could have added more stuff because like there was time when engineers weren't doing anything. So we probably could have added more features and added some stuff. But overall, I'm happy with what we got. It was a good time.
Yeah, that's really cool. I
It's
mean,
cool to
project
just finish
management
something. Like I would recommend
is a
anybody
skill set.
with
You
a
know, like it probably would pay off to have someone on your team just for the management aspect of.
Yeah, that
such a
was what
thing.
we were missing. And I have like a history of stepping up to do that and then something going wrong and me getting really upset about it. And so like I just don't do that anymore too much. Especially like I have over 10 game jams under my belt, I think. So
Yeah.
I'm just never that attached to want to take leadership and get really passionate about it or anything. But somebody needs to do producer stuff. Like that role exists for a reason, and we didn't have that so much. So it was a
No,
good
but that's
time.
cool though.
Yeah.
It's cool that just knowing, because I've done a couple game jams in the long distant past.
Yeah,
But
those are
10 years
so
ago.
So much work. Yeah, God, we're so old. So much work goes into a video game, even small games that you make in the span of, a few days, a week. I mean,
You're tired.
if you have no idea, like if you're not into game development at all, you cannot fathom how much work has to go in even the smallest projects. So
Even this project, I was exhausted at the end. Part of that is because I'm not used to being around people all day. I work from home, and this was an in-person event, so it was actually like a lot more social interaction than I'm used to. So I was exhausted on Sunday night. I passed out like 10 o'clock or something.
well, congrats on your game.
Thank you.
I will say, kind of looping back around to the other half of my story, the actual reason I went to Pittsburgh was to see a One Piece Symphony concert. So I didn't really know what to expect going into this. Like I thought like I'd hear One Piece music and it'd be great. This is one of the best musical experiences of my life. Straight up.
Yeah.
I think if you are a One Piece fan, you have to go to this thing. You owe it to yourself to travel and see this thing because it is it was an experience.
I heard it had spoilers.
It told the entire story of One Piece.
That's crazy.
The entire story up till Egghead.
I can't believe I missed it.
It is worth traveling for. That's how highly I recommend it. Yeah. So
Oh well.
just showering that with praise. Man, it was a treat. It was like very emotional too, because obviously One Piece is an emotional series. They play the sad music. They show the sad scenes, and like half the audience in the orchestra is crying watching this anime concert, And I will say the biggest lift, and I guess this is spoilers for One Piece, but so you can skip this if you care. But when Gear 5 happened, like the drums, the theater erupted. Like applause, cheering. I had never seen anything like it. I was like in the middle of an orchestra, because you typically reserve your applause for the end in an orchestra.
Yeah.
But like that moment was so huge, people just couldn't help
they
it.
lost
And I
it,
thought it was
yeah.
really cool. Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. I'm your host, Sam, and me on today I'm joined by Connor
Hey guys.
and Mike.
Hello.
And generally, I try to be positive on this show. We try to talk about things that excite us, but occasionally I feel like we have to point out something we're upset with, especially if it's something that we care about. I'm using we right now, but it's mostly me for this episode.
I'm not happy with it, but I'm not as passionate as you.
Yeah, so I really want to talk about Sony, the current state of Sony, PlayStation, and what really kind of motivated this desire to talk about Sony was the announcement, I think a week or two ago now, that two more live service games of theirs were canceled. One being developed by Bluepoint, who is known for the remakes, the Demon Souls remake, Shadow of the Colossus remake, and one for Bend Studio, who made Days Gone and Uncharted Golden Abyss.
Ooh, I didn't know they made Golden Abyss. That's a good game.
They did. And hearing this news just really made me angry more than anything else, because it's clear to me this is just a complete mismanagement of these studios' resources and talents. Especially Bluepoint, like they expressed interest after Demon Souls that they wanted to make their own IP, their own game, and they got stuck on a God of War live service game.
I thought it was
just
clarified it wasn't a
screams.
live service. It was just multiplayer.
It was either a live service or multiplayer game.
Either way,
I'm
it's
not sure.
A huge
But-
miss. I just, for the
Yeah.
sake of accuracy.
It's a miss on multiple fronts. One, like you clearly, whoever made this decision, which I'm going to go into that in a little bit, does not understand God of War has tried multiplayer in the past with God of War Ascension. No one cared. Ascension was probably the least liked game in the series.
I've never even heard of it, and I
It came out after God of War 3, and it was a prequel. And it's largely
was it
forgotten. PlayStation 3.
Okay.
But God of War never revisited multiplayer after that because it didn't have to. And Ascension came out in a time when, remember that period of time when like basically every single player game got some kind of tacked on multiplayer mode.
Yeah, I mean, that's when we got, some of them were good. We got Assassin's Creed multiplayer out of that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was good. The larger market did not, apparently,
No,
but
you know, the larger market is wrong. The larger market likes GTA 5, so.
But okay, so God of War multiplayer, something that no one wants, right? Like, and to stick Bluepoint on it, who had previously publicly said that they wanted to work on their own IP after Demon Souls. A lot of people were speculating that they were making another kind of Souls-like game, because obviously Sony has Bloodborne and Demon Souls. After Bluepoint worked on Demon Souls, maybe people thought that they would have gotten their feet wet with that kind of game and wanted to take their own stab at it. Nope. It was a canceled God of War multiplayer game. So that made me angry. and Bend Studio as well. I mean, obviously Days Gone was kind of middling.
Yeah.
But I do think that studio has potential. There was good stuff in Days Gone. It just needed a lot of editing, let's say. And like you said, Uncharted Golden Abyss was a good game.
You couldn't convince me that there weren't a lot of talented people. Uncharted Golden Abyss was not Naughty Dog tier Uncharted, but I would be happy to see an Uncharted game out of them, like a full budget Uncharted game. I think they did justice by the characters, by the set piece nature of it. I really liked that game.
Yeah, so they were working on a live service game, and that got canceled a few weeks ago as well. So Sony did come out and say that we're not going to shut these studios down. We're going to figure out what we're going to do with them next. But it's just incredibly frustrating from the perspective of we are over halfway through the PlayStation 5 generation, and with these two games, there are roughly, let's say, we'll go through each of them, but there's approximately 12 games that have been canceled, all of the multiplayer live service variety. And this is frustrating to me because it's basically like Sony is just done for the generation. Their output is going to be severely diminished because of all of these misses, and that really harms you as a brand. Obviously, they're still doing very well. They're still coasting off the success of the PS4. They have an audience that largely bought in at the right time when people switched to their kind of digital ecosystems. So they have that momentum working for them. But as we know, video game players are very fickle, as they should be, right? They're not typically, like, obviously you have the core fan bases that are married to Nintendo, Xbox, or Sony. But by and large, people will pick up and move. Like, we've seen, I mean, look at Nintendo, which probably has the most hardcore fan base out there. People did not buy the Wii U. People were not interested in that console.
Yeah.
It was a colossal failure. So just because a company is well known and does well in the past does not mean it's going to continue to just coast by.
And here's the weirdest part about Sony canceling all these games. These all represent years of work for these studios, and now they're going to have to spin up production on a game that's probably not going to come out in this console generation.
Right.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
PS6
so
now. Yeah.
Bend Studio, Bluepoint, they're out. They're not going to have another PS5 game, which is...
They might close. They might just not stop existing.
Some of them have. I mean,
at the sunk cost.
Was it Firepoint?
Yeah.
Who did
It was
Concord?
Firewalk.
Firewalk.
Firewalk's already gone, and they released one game in their entire existence.
So I just wanted to highlight these issues, but we're going to get a little deeper, right? So I want to talk about Jim Ryan. So Jim Ryan became CEO in February 2019. So that's about a year and a half before the launch of the PlayStation 5, which to me, that makes perfect sense, right? Like, this guy, like, obviously, in terms of the hardware design, like, that was largely done at that point. If you don't think that the PlayStation 6 design is probably close to complete at this point, I don't know what to tell you. These things are planned years in advance. So PlayStation 5 was already probably done and buttoned up. But from the software perspective, looking at these dates for these closures, it is so clear to me that someone around this time must have greenlit all these projects. And obviously we don't have any definitive proof, but I'm pointing the blame finger at Jim Ryan. He joined in February 2019. PlayStation 5 launches in November of 2020. And he retires in March 2024. So he had a very kind of short tenure as PlayStation CEO. And PlayStation's not like they're not new to having new CEOs for every generation. In April 2014, Sean Layden became CEO of PlayStation. Obviously, the PS4 launched in 2013, so he was largely the CEO for the PS4 generation. But Jim Ryan takes the reins. All of a sudden, all these live service projects crop up. And now we're seeing the result of that.
Yeah. Maybe this will be a cautionary tale to other big publishers to say that, hey, if you put all your eggs in one live service basket, it might be over. You might lose an entire generation of games just because you decided to push one specific genre.
I mean, years from now, when we're doing an episode on like how this console generation is remembered, the PS5 is not.
Yeah,
it's not gonna have. It's gonna have 50% of the bangers that the PS4 had at best.
And that's the frustrating thing to me, because they had so much momentum coming off, particularly the end of the PS4 generation. That's when most of their really good first-party games came out.
Yeah, they've always had so much momentum coming off a generation,
and that could have continued. Like, if these 12 games didn't get canceled and they were working on the things they're good at, the single-player games, that absolutely could have continued, and they would have had a really good release cadence, like akin to something like the Switch in terms of first-party support.
God, the Switch's release cadence is god tier.
But I want to now just go studio by studio and look at what game they're making and what their previous game was, just to give us a better idea of where Sony stands, all right? So we're just going to go in alphabetical order. Bend Studio, their current game, canceled live service game. So they're probably not working on anything right now. Either that, or they got put on support for another studio, which would suck for a developer like them.
I'm going to interject. I think it's very unlikely that they're not working on anything. But game studios typically have the next 4 or 5 games planned out.
But okay, let's just say like they're in extremely early stage of development.
They're very early.
Right? So their previous game, Days Gone 2019, let's just be generous and assume they start working on their next game after they ship Days Gone. Obviously, they support that for a couple of years, but they also work on the next thing. Their next thing was canceled in 2025, right? So, and particularly for Bend Studio, I've heard stories that they had multiple projects that they tried to get off the ground, including an Uncharted game that they were working on, but then that got kicked to someone else. Don't know what that's about. But they have nothing to show in 6 years, right, since Days Gone. And now they're back to the drawing board again.
Yep.
Which is just... that sucks.
Yeah.
That really sucks. Next studio, Bluepoint Games. The current game was the canceled God of War multiplayer / live service game. It was canceled a few weeks ago. Their previous game was Demon's Souls in 2020. So clearly that means Bluepoint is out. They're not big enough to support multiple projects at once like some of these other studios are.
They're back in pitching
We'll talk
stage.
about those.
Yeah.
So they're probably back to square one in terms of what they're going to be working on next.
Yeah.
Which really sucks, because I think Bluepoint was acquired towards the beginning of this generation.
Right.
And they, I think they're a great studio. Like, I think Demon's Souls and Shadow of the Colossus, obviously they're not their games, but the way they remade those games, those are, I would argue, the definitive way to play those games. They look great, they run great, something that cannot be said for the original Demon's Souls and Shadow of the Colossus. They did not run great.
An analog we can look at is Grezzo, which at Nintendo, they got to do the Ocarina of Time remake for 3DS, and they did a couple other Zelda remakes. I'm not sure if they worked on Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, but then they got to go on, and I believe Grezzo did, they did Link's Awakening remake as well. And then I believe Grezzo was the lead on Echoes of Wisdom. I might be wrong about that, but I think that's the case. Like, they actually got to make a Zelda game. And that's the path that I saw Bluepoint on before this.
Yeah, that's what everyone assumed. They were like, maybe they're working on Demon's Souls 2 or some other Souls-like game, or whatever they're doing. They have experience now, and they have a hunger to do their own thing. They don't want to be the remake studio forever.
Right.
But
nobody
I can bet you money that they did not volunteer to make a God of War multiplayer game. Yeah. I will bet you any amount of money that is the case.
Yeah.
All right, next studio, Fire Sprite, not to be confused with Firewalk.
Firewalk's gone.
But Fire Sprite, They were acquired in 2021, and their current game was a canceled Twisted Metal live service game. So I don't know why. Like, obviously, I think they were trying to bring Twisted Metal back because of the TV series that was received pretty well.
Is that an IP that makes sense as a live service? I
I don't know.
Yeah, I've
Like,
never
why?
played it, so I can't
Why?
say.
I'll also add that since that Fire Sprite's acquisition, the company has been chaos. A lot of the original people had already left.
Have you
they've
played
been
Twisted Metal,
crunching.
Mike?
Oh, I've never played a Twisted Metal.
Okay. Have you played any of their other games?
No, Fire Sprite did
no.
not make Twisted Metal.
Oh.
They were
they're
going to
just
make a Twisted Metal online game
yeah.
that was canceled.
They just took the IP
Okay, sorry.
to make
I
a game for
misunderstood.
Sony.
Yeah.
in
So,
February.
Just such a weird choice. Like because I try not to be in a strict anti-live service position, although I do find myself at that point a lot. But an IP that doesn't have any heat, like Twisted Metal,
Plus,
doesn't
an IP
seem-
that studio doesn't have any history with too. Like,
yeah,
obviously,
Yeah.
that doesn't matter as much because, like, look at Golden Abyss, Bend,
Right.
and Uncharted. Right, it can be done, but like you said, it doesn't. It's not as good as a Naughty Dog Uncharted, right? So you're already getting a kind of.
it's also on the PS Vita. To be
That's
fair,
true. Yeah, it was limited in that way.
benefit of the doubt, it maybe could have been as good as an
It
Uncharted.
may be, yeah.
But we'll never know.
But
yeah,
I guess what I'm getting at is that you can very clearly look at these games, canceled Twisted Metal live service game, God of War multiplayer live service game, and you can very clearly see that these decisions could be made by someone in a boardroom that has no connection to any of these games.
I mean, what would that? It's a racing game, right? Like, what? Would,
Yeah, I don't know what that would look like. I have no idea.
I mean, I guess Forza's kind of live service. They add new cars and stuff, but Forza has like real cars to pull.
Yeah, this is a clown with a flaming
Yeah, I don't
head
see the vision.
driving a car. Like,
Unless
yeah,
it was
I don't
like a
know.
weird free to play offshoot that would have been super low budget. Like I don't see the vision at all.
All right, next, Guerrilla Games. This is one of the big studios, so they have multiple projects in development. Their current game in development is an unannounced Horizon online game. I don't know if it's live service. It might be an MMO. That's the current rumor, but it's an online Horizon game. Their previous game was Horizon Forbidden West in 2022. So I think yeah,
didn't they
what's
do
up?
Call of the Mountain?
no, Call of the Mountain was
Fire
actually
Sprite.
Fire Sprite. So
And
the
that
previous
one
studio
was
where we were talking
a
about,
disaster.
they did
internally.
Call of the Mountain. I actually meant to mention that when we were talking
Sorry,
about Fire
yeah.
Sprite. I apologize. But yeah,
Just-
Guerrilla Games.
Does Horizon really have that IP strength that we think it does, though?
Yes. I mean, it's like the
has
best
strength,
selling.
but I would argue it's just not as much as Sony thinks because
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
put out Lego Horizon and that didn't do very well at all. And
Oh,
if it
really?
really had the strength as something like obviously it's nowhere near like a Star Wars, but if it was like a fifth of Star Wars, Lego Horizon would have sold very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like the mainline Horizon games sell very well, but I don't know about them trying to push it into all these different directions and
Yeah.
spin-offs and TV
Like,
shows. I don't know if
one
it could handle
asked
that.
for a Lego Horizon game.
I mean, nobody asked for Lego Star Wars either, and I was pretty happy to have it.
I mean,
But
yeah. Here's the thing about spinning your IP off. Like, say Naughty Dog releases Lego Last of Us, right? Because that is with
I'd play
Lego
that.
Horizon, there is a distinct possibility that we do get Lego Last of Us. Would that even fit? Would that sell well? Would you buy it?
Yeah,
I mean, Last of Us would definitely not fit, but
It's
Horizon, I would argue, fits better because they have the robots and the robots can be Lego-fied, I feel like, pretty easily. But even then, it's still kind of a weird pick to me. But yeah, so Guerrilla Games, they're working on Horizon Online game, and they're probably working on Horizon 3 as well at the same time.
yeah.
and is this
moving
still
on.
in production? The online game?
Yeah,
Yes.
still in production, not canceled yet. So it's one of the few that is still ongoing.
I mean, it
We'll
probably
see.
has one
We'll
of the
see if
better
it lasts.
chances.
Yeah.
I mean, Horizon. Grain of salt to everything I'm about to say. I didn't play the games, but at a glance, Horizon makes a lot more sense as a live service than something like The Last of Us. Like, it has a grindy mechanical loop that could be an online game to me.
Okay, I don't know. We'll see. I might get canceled. We'll
Yeah,
see.
might get
We'll see.
canceled.
Like
Yeah.
it canceled.
All right, next, Haven Studio. They were acquired in 2021, and they're the ones making Fair games. So we saw this trailer. I was not impressed by this trailer.
Did we see
It-
I don't remember.
Yeah,
it, so-
this was a while ago, right? Like it was like an extraction shooter kind of game.
Okay.
And I mean, I think this and Concord were shown around the same time. And I think, I don't know, if I was a betting man, I do not like Fair Games' chances. So
yeah, you think they're next
this
on
one,
the block?
This one's another live service games. It's coming out. I think it does have the benefit of seeing what killed Concord and maybe learning from that a bit. But
What's their previous game?
this is their first game.
This is their first game.
This studio was acquired in 2021. I believe it is their first game.
Live service is a psychotic first game. That's
Yeah.
an unproven team, you know. That's just a wild thing to put on them. But
Yeah, so again, this one's not one of the canceled ones yet, but I don't know. I just feel like Sony, they can't have another game like Concord come out and publicly bomb so hard. They just absolutely
it
cannot
was
do it.
really
And
bad for their image.
I think that's why they're being more aggressive, where they're like, okay, we're just going to pull the plug. If we're not sure that this is going to be a sure thing, we're going to cancel.
How many of those can they afford, though?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, are we...
Sony is not Microsoft. Microsoft absolutely has money to burn. One would argue that the purse strings are tightening for Xbox. Like, I think Microsoft is not willing to just foot the bill for Xbox as much as they were in the past.
Yeah.
But they still have, at the end of the day, there's still an avenue for Xbox to get basically infinite money, right? Sony is not that company. No. Sony has to work with a much tighter set of resources, and seeing like basically 50+% of their games getting canceled. That's probably hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars down the drain this generation.
Do we want to get through the list and then go into financial consequences of this? Because I have some thoughts, but we're kind of, I don't know.
I mean, this is a long list, so strap in.
Yeah.
Okay, so Haven Studio. Next, a studio near and dear to all of our hearts, Housemarque. Their current game, we don't know what they're making. So hopefully it's not some live service slop. That would be very sad.
Hopefully it's Returnal too.
Their previous game was Returnal, which came out in 2021. So it has been around 4 years.
I gotta finish that game. It's so good.
Which is a good, I think, wouldn't be surprising to hear about Housemarque's next game in the next year or so. So
yeah,
I hope to God it is not a live service game.
Online.
If you put Housemarque on a live service game, you are truly just completely mismanaging that studio.
Yeah. Counterpoint, there's room in my heart for a live service roguelike that gets frequent updates.
I don't know. Like, do you think they'll come back to... I hope they come back to Returnal. Returnal was so good.
I'd be happy with that. Or just another roguelike. They just clearly have a pretty... I wouldn't call it a mastery necessarily of roguelikes as a genre, but...
I mean, that was their first roguelike.
Incorporating roguelike game design into a more traditional big budget game, I think they're really good at. I mean, the only other example that I can think that is as successful is like Hitman.
Yeah. And this is their first roguelike game.
Yeah.
They traditionally always made like twin stick shooters.
Oh,
before
this. That makes
like
sense.
Like Resogun and...
You can see that in Returnal.
You can absolutely see that in Returnal, but like seeing that evolution of what they're good at in Returnal, it was so rewarding to see, because I've been a fan of Housemarque since the launch of the PS4.
Yeah.
So I played Resogun, Alienation, Nex Machina. I think they do what they do really well, and to see something completely new for them in Returnal, but also bring some of the elements from their like bullet hell twin stick shooter games. Lovely to see. So I really hope that they continue to build on their strengths, and I just hope they're not doing like we're gonna make a Ratchet and Clank live service game. You know, just something that doesn't make any sense, like a God of War live service game.
Yeah.
Okay, so Housemarque, current game unknown, but let's hope it's not a live service game. Next is Insomniac, and no introduction needed for Insomniac. They're working on multiple things. They do have a canceled live service Spider-Man game, though.
I will defend that game until the day I die. I think it could have been great. I love the idea of a multiplayer mission-based Spider-Verse kind of thing.
And they were in a position to, like, if it was done right, because obviously Sony has the whole Spider-Verse thing, too. Like, that could be absolutely pulled from in some sort of live service capacity. But as we know, these live service games are very hard to make. So even Insomniac, which arguably is Sony's best studio right now, they got their project canceled.
I gotta
So-
say something a little conspiratorial here. I think something weird's going on at Insomniac right now. They just had a shakeup in leadership, like very recently.
Yeah, so they're right.
Spider-Man 2 comes to PC in 2 days, and there's no heat.
And there's no word of it.
Nothing
Yeah.
going on.
I don't think it's
forgot.
coming in 2 days.
Yeah,
That would be very strange if there's no marketing or anything.
no heat. And you know, Sony's going to turn around and say like, "Oh, we just don't have the audience on PC." It's like, "Yeah, okay. Cool."
No, I mean they launched Spider-Man and Miles Morales on PC, and they both did quite well.
But they made a
so-
big deal about it when they did those. And they're
Yeah,
not
I think so. I mean, I think something's wrong. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I think we're gonna hear about a delay or something.
No,
but yeah,
they're
like-
not going to delay a game 2 days before it comes out.
I mean, it's better that than it launch and
That's
tank
true.
the reputation
Yeah.
further.
but-
So, but yeah, like you said, the Insomniac's CEO has retired basically, and he's been with the company, I think, since like the early '90s. So he's been there through it all.
And they chose 3 replacements, was my understanding. 3 co.
Yeah, so
It's a
I
bad
don't think
idea.
that'll work. Yeah, but like the idea is one is a marketing person, one is a finance person, and one is the actual like a game.
That marketing
person.
guy's doing a great job, gotta say.
Yeah, right. But I mean, there's probably a bit of turmoil, right, as
Yeah.
they figure out their new kind of structure. So we'll see. Their current in production game, or at least one of them we know of, is Wolverine. Their previous game was Spider-Man 2, which launched in 2023, and they had a canceled live service Spider-Man game. Okay, next up, Malaysia Studio. They're a support studio. I just wanted to mention them for completeness, but they are not building their own games. They help other studios, first parties, build their games. So just wanted to throw that out there. Media Molecule. Current project, unknown. Whatever they're working on, I don't know what it is. Their previous project was Dreams, and it launched in 2020. So it has been a long time, but I will mention that they were supporting Dreams until very recently, until about a year ago, I think.
Sony has to be kicking themselves seeing the success of like Roblox right now. And like,
They had something on
and
their hands with
Fortnite.
Dreams.
Yeah.
and they had, I mean, Media Molecule especially just deserved more support. Media Molecule, I don't know if you guys have the love I have for Little Big Planet, but I love Little Big Planet 1, 2, 3. Did I? I don't think I played 3. I played 1 and 2 and Vita. And Vita's probably my favorite. I love that game. I loved all of them. I had very good memories playing those games. I didn't get into Dreams in the same way, but I definitely think that they had something special on their hands that could have rivaled Roblox and Fortnite.
It's a complicated discussion because I think Dreams it had the potential to become like a Roblox like, but I would argue that I think most people want a game more like Little Big Planet out of Media Molecule than something like Dreams, something that's actually a game and not really a tool set.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a full game made in the tool set or something like they did with Little Big Planet.
And then they did, right? Like they had like a campaign.
It was really short,
but
it was fine.
Yeah, and it was more of just like kind of a showcase to show that, oh, these are the different kinds of things you can build in Dreams. And people built really cool things in Dreams. Like it had a very good community. But this is absolutely the game that you want to get on PC as soon as possible. And they just didn't do it.
Well, the other
never
thing,
happened.
I missed this game coming out, and I was like a Media Molecule fan. I loved these guys, and I was watching, and to see the way this launch was handled, you'd think Sony was embarrassed to be a part of it. That there was nothing to tell me that Dreams came out. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Media Molecule, I mean, my heart goes out for them. I think if there's going to be another round of cuts, Media Molecule has a good reason.
They
to be
were almost
worried.
about to be closed when they closed the London studio.
Yeah.
So they're on the chopping block, which sucks.
Yeah, so I really hope they can at least put out another game and sort of prove themselves again, because I mean they're by far the most creative studio Sony has.
And that just goes to show you how kind of messed up things have to be in the Sony executive suite, because to take a company like Media Molecule that on the PS3 essentially they made your mascot, and you're gonna put them on the chopping block. Like,
Well, Sony has a shiny new robotic mascot now.
yeah,
so-
yeah, but I would argue that like that could have been Sackboy, like with a little love. Sackboy could
Yeah,
have been.
it could have been. Yeah, I mean, he was that for a little
Yeah,
bit, for sure.
and
Yeah.
I love Sackboy. I have so much love.
So
for him. I
yeah,
no
that-
hate to Astrobot at all, but Sackboy's
it is tragic. I think Media Molecule was kind of a tragedy if you look at their
Actually,
trajectory.
I don't know if you can. Oh, well, our viewers definitely, our listeners can't see it, but I have a Sackboy plush on my shelf beside me somewhere.
Oh, nice. All right, moving on. Naughty Dog. No introduction really needed for Naughty Dog. Their latest game was a canceled Last of Us live service game. Even Naughty Dog cannot escape the canceled deluge of games. So
Such a huge miss.
And
so
they're-
stupid.
they're a big studio, right? So they have multiple projects in development. Their other project is Intergalactic, which they showed off recently, coming maybe sometime next year, I would guess. And their previous game was The Last of Us Part 2, which launched in 2020. So again, for Naughty Dog, right? Naughty Dog puts out 1 to 2 games a generation. And for them
we
to
lost
miss one, yeah, that's just tragic, man. That's completely tragic.
There's a non-zero chance that Intergalactic misses the PS5, or
it
is
could
like
happen.
a dual release with the PS6, because it's
Yeah,
there's
it
no
could happen.
there's no reason to believe it's coming out next year, to my knowledge. Like that's just a guess, right? Like, or is there?
that's just a
something?
guess.
Yeah,
That's just
okay.
no. That's just a guess.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if it gets delayed or is further out than that. And if it's 2 years away, we're into PS6 territory, I think.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah, but yeah, it's such a shame to me because like Naughty Dog, like we all know my love for Naughty Dog, and to see them, I do think Naughty Dog is a different case from the rest of these live service games. I genuinely believe that Naughty Dog wanted to and thought they could make a live service Last of Us game because Naughty Dog, more so than I think everyone else, has that creative autonomy. They can do what they want to do. But
I
They,
don't think it was Sony pushing them to make the Last
Exactly,
of Us.
that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say,
they
right? Like-
they made that call, and it was the wrong call. I will
it
stand
was the
by
wrong
that.
call, and they I will have to acknowledge, right? They came out with like a letter and very formally said that we made this call to cancel this game and return to our strengths for single player games, because they said in their letter that we were at a sort of inflection point where if they were going to make the Last of Us live service game properly, they would have to basically pour all their resources into it and just become a studio to support a live service game. And they looked at themselves and they were like, that's not who we want to be. So they made the decision to cancel it, probably throwing hundreds of millions of dollars down the drain, and are back to doing what we love them for. So yeah, Naughty Dog, another kind of hit there for all these canceled live service games. Next, we have Nixxes. Nixxes is a PC port studio. They do not make their own games yet, but just wanted to add them to this list for completeness. Next is Polyphony Digital. Current project is unknown, probably a Gran Turismo game because they only make Gran Turismo games. Their previous game was Gran Turismo 7 in 2022.
Gran Turismo
Nothing really to
live
say
service
here.
could work.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of already
Yeah,
is
well,
in
it's
a-
yearly release
in a sense.
essentially, isn't it?
No,
Or-
but like I mean, you can pay to get credits to get cars and
Yeah,
stuff like
so-
that. So like it already has like an ongoing
Small
pricing
audience, though.
model. I mean, Gran
niche
Turismo,
audience, maybe not small, niche.
it's not like Fortnite. Let's just put it like that,
No,
right? Like
but
I mean, there are like a dedicated like couple million people who are really into Gran Turismo.
Right. But it's not
Um,
something like when you meet
it's
a
not
person,
what they
you don't
want.
assume that they've played Gran Turismo.
Right. It's and it's not like the live service money they want out of one of these live service hits. All right. Next, we've got San Diego Studio. Again, this is a quick one. They're the MLB The Show studio, so they put out MLB The Show every year, which is the baseball game, so it does very well for Sony.
Is it so? That's
Um,
exclusive. The baseball game is a Sony exclusive.
Well, it was exclusive for the longest time, and now it's going everywhere. Like, remember, it
Interesting.
famously came on Xbox
No,
like a year or two ago, and we actually talked.
we probably
about that.
talked about it, but it was
Yeah.
if it's a baseball game, I wasn't listening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't care about baseball, but they make the baseball game. That's what they're doing. Nothing really to say there. Next is San Mateo Studio. That is a second-party support studio. Again, just added for completeness. Next, we have Sony Santa Monica. So, again, one of their big ones. Their previous game was God of War Ragnarok in 2022. Their current project is a new IP. So that's
Interesting.
exciting to see what that ends up being.
yeah.
But as far as I know, they're not working on a live service game, which is good. All right, we're close to the end here. Next, we have Sucker Punch. So, again, a studio, I think, doing the right thing. Their current project is Ghost of Yotei. Their previous was Ghost of Tsushima, which came out in 2020. They're doing what I want to see from Sony's studios, which is building on what they already have.
Yeah, do what you're good at.
So that's good. Next, we have Team Asobi.
Good.
Current project is unknown because they just launched their Game of the Year game, Astrobot, in 2024. So
Not on this show.
This Asobi, well, not on this show, but Asobi is a gem,
yeah.
and they're actually the remnants of Japan's studio. So like Japan's studio got shuttered by Sony, who was known for like massive critical darlings like Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian and Gravity Rush, these kinds of games. So they closed, but like kind of the skeleton of that studio exists in Team Asobi, and they're keeping the spirit of that studio alive. So I hope to see another Astrobot game from them like soon, right? Like maybe 2-3 years. It'd be great if they can kind of capture that 2 to 3 year dev cycle.
I hope
and not be like a 5 to 6 year like most other AAAs.
So 3D platformers don't necessarily take as long, especially like the cartoony. But I sincerely hope they have like some people still working in VR. I bet they don't. But God, was it Astrobot Rescue Mission?
Yeah, Rescue Mission. Yeah,
that game was something special. I've seen a couple different studios try to do what Team Asobi did there, and it is not the same. They just don't. They cannot capture it for some reason. I don't really know.
Asobi's just really good. Yeah, they're just really good at what they do. Yeah.
And I never got to play Rescue Mission because it's still a PS4 exclusive.
Right. And it's still stuck on PSVR 1.
Yeah.
At least bring it to 2.
Yeah. And it's like not an easy port because of the technology they use in it. You could probably get it on something like MetaQuest now using I think those can track like any object now, so you could track the controller that way. But I don't think you could do it on PSVR 2.
I don't know. I hope they figure out how to make it happen because it would immediately be PSVR 2's best game.
Yeah. I don't know. Call of the Mountain was supposed to be pretty good. I don't know.
It's not. It's. I mean, it's fine. You know.
It's not.
I mean, I wouldn't know because I get too sick every time I try to play it.
Yeah. And Astrobot didn't make you sick?
No.
Okay.
It didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Next we have Valkyrie Entertainment. They're a sports studio. Then we have XDev, and they work with external devs for third-party support, and they've helped with games like Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, Rise of the Ronin, all which were PlayStation exclusives. And then finally, and I didn't know if we should include this because they're not technically a PlayStation studio. They're kind of like a separate entity, but Bungie, right? Bungie was purchased by PlayStation. They do not exist within the first-party umbrella. They're kind of their own entity.
Yeah.
And they also got hit, right? They had a game called Payback, which was a live service game canceled in 2024. They're currently working on Marathon, which I feel like has to launch this year.
Yeah.
And I think a lot is riding on Marathon for the future of Bungie. And their previous / ongoing project is Destiny 2. They still support that.
I will say,
but Destiny 2,
of all these studios,
yeah, go ahead.
Bungie is not the one that I'm going to be mad about working on a live service game.
Bungie, that's kind of what they do, right? That's kind of what we've been arguing. Like, if that is what you do, then do it, right? Like Bungie, make all the live service games you want. You've proven yourselves. But a lot of these other studios who have only ever made single player games suddenly have to learn a completely new skill set.
Right.
Like, as a developer, imagine that, right? Like, imagine.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
just being like, okay, now you're making a God of War live service game. Like what? How are we gonna even do that?
As someone that has been passed around contracts, I kind of get it, but
but like obviously that will. Yes, it's cool. Your developers will learn new skills, but
the ramp up time
made so much more slowly. Right, people are learning all these new skills. Yeah, the ramp up time, exactly.
Like let's look at something like something I'm obsessed with, Monster Hunter. Like when you finish making a Monster Hunter game, you start a new Monster Hunter game with all the cool ideas you came up with while you were working on the last one.
Right.
The ramp up time is non-existent. You immediately can start doing that because you're good at it. You have 20 years of experience at it.
Yeah.
And proof is in the pudding on that one.
All right, so that is the list. So 20 total studios, but if you cut out all the support studios, so the studios that are only making games, that's 15 studios. So 15 studios, keep that in mind, all right? And we had 12 live service games for this generation, right? Some of them launched, most of them were canceled. Let's just go through them. Helldivers 2, released February 2024.
Goated game.
Sony's massive success, right? Like, what Sony got a taste of what they wanted, right?
And they messed it up immediately.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
But
they did.
I guess, but like the thing that worries me is that the finances might be such that it could be worth eating the cost on all these games if they get one hit.
I have a very hard time believing Helldivers 2 is making enough money to fund.
I don't think Helldivers 2 is, but I think whatever, if they make like a Fortnite level game.
Yeah, but
then
that's such a colossal if, though, which is our whole argument. But yeah,
that's the whole thing. Yeah. So Helldivers 2, Ben Studios canceled game, canceled in 2025. Bluepoint's canceled God of War game, canceled in 2025. Bungie making Marathon, that's still in development. We'll see how that ends up. Bungie had a game called Payback, canceled in 2024. Fire Sprite, Twisted Metal Games and Service, canceled in 2024. Firewalk, Concord, released and canceled after like a week and a half. And famously, like the biggest bomb like in Sony history.
Yeah, like
in
a
gaming
literal
history.
zero money made off of this because they refunded everyone.
Yeah, so, and the studio was killed as well. Guerrilla Games making a Horizon Online game. Haven Studios making Fair games. Insomniac had a canceled Spider-Man game. London Studios had a canceled AAA fantasy multiplayer game, and it was canceled and the studio was closed, which sucks because London Studio has been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
Studio was closed, I think, in 2024. And then Naughty Dog with The Last of Us Factions Online game canceled in 2023. So out of these 12 live service games I just listed, right? So let's count them. Helldivers, Marathon, Horizon, Fair games, right? So that's 4 that are still being worked on. The rest have been canceled.
So we lost 8 games, essentially.
So we lost 8 games. Imagine 8 games in the past 4 years. Like, even if we average that out, right? Like, that's 2 games, additional first-party games a year we could have gotten if we had not gone down this road.
But
and obviously,
that's
like
something like a third of a generation worth of games, like a third of a console.
That's a lot of
generation.
games, man. That's a lot of games.
Because like very few consoles have 30 good games, and
just to kind of highlight this, right? Like the PS5 is a little over 4 years old, right? It came out in 2020, November of 2020, and here are the first party games we have on PS5, right? First party, like. So if it's cross-gen, I'm going to count it, right? Because it's still a first-party game. So we had Demon's Souls in 2020 by Bluepoint, Astro's Playroom in 2020 by Asobi, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart in 2021 by Insomniac, Returnal in 2021 by Housemarque, Gran Turismo 7 in 2022 by Polyphony Digital, Horizon Forbidden West 2022 Guerrilla Games, God of War Ragnarok 2022 Sony Santa Monica, Spider-Man 2 2023 Insomniac, and Concord 2024 Firewalk, and Astrobot 2024 Asobi.
And counting Astrobot's Playroom as a game is like very generous.
Yeah, it is. It's basically like half a game. It's not. It's more of a tech demo than a game. So that's it, right?
Yeah, you're not listing a lot of
those are your
to own a
first party
PS5.
games.
Yeah.
But just imagine if that list was bolstered with 8 additional games.
Yeah, it'd be huge.
I mean, suddenly it would look a lot better, right?
Look real, yeah. I mean, how many of these can Sony really? I mean, I guess we don't know the background. Like games get canceled all the time. Obviously, we don't cover the ones we don't know about.
Obviously, yes.
But how many live service games tend to be more expensive than their single player counterparts as well? How many of these like colossal L's can Sony afford? I mean,
yeah, because at a certain point, I think their reputation's already very tarnished by these failures, right? Like. In the late PS4 era, I mean, a Sony exclusive really meant something. And obviously, it still means something when someone like Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica puts out a game. But, like, just the blanket statement of, oh, it's a Sony exclusive, it's probably going to be good, isn't really true now with all these failures. Granted, the games they do put out have been good. Like, look at Astrobot, for example. And that's probably why they're aggressively canceling these games now, because they do not want another Concord type situation. They do not want any more tarnishing of their reputation.
Reputation is an interesting point, but my thinking is these are games that would have come out and made money, and they didn't. And so Sony is looking at essentially half. The numbers obviously don't actually work out like that, but half of the games that should have been out on the PS5 are not out now.
Well, yeah, I mean, we just don't know the reality, right? Like, maybe they canceled a lot of these live service games because maybe they were like halfway in development.
Right.
Just like the economics of this don't make sense. If you're going to take 8 years to make this, then we might as well just cancel it and put you on something else.
Right.
So
I'm just thinking, are we looking at a world where Xbox is about to win the console war by attrition? Like, is Sony just going to shoot themselves in the foot to death?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, Xbox, I mean, I guess it depends on what you define as the console war.
I mean, how long can Sony keep making blunders like this and still put out a console? Is I guess what I'm saying.
Sony's, like, the PlayStation 5 as a console is still doing very well. It's
right, but
actually
they're not making a ton of money per console.
It's outselling the PS4
right.
currently launched aligned. And software-wise, it's doing very well, too.
Okay.
And obviously, that's driven largely by third-party games.
Yeah.
But people come to PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Like, people come to PlayStation because, yes, the third-party games are there. Your friends are there. But the thing that, like, really draws you to something like a PlayStation instead of an Xbox or even a PC, even though that's changing now, was their first-party catalog, right? Their Uncharted, Last of Us, Ratchet & Clank, Ghost of Tsushima, like, Horizon, all of these games really kind of defined what Sony was in the video gaming ecosystem. And now, right, like a generation later, from the outside looking in, they're largely defined by all these canceled games. And again, PS5 is already a success. It already has the momentum. But how will this hurt PlayStation 6? If it will. I don't know.
I would say there's 2 generations of that, because the PS4 did not have this problem. That's not the argument I'm about to make at all. But the vast majority of people, I know you are into the PS4 for the exclusives, but the majority of people I know that got a PS4, this is purely anecdotal, obviously, like don't take too much, take this into account too much. But most of the people I've talked to, they bought a PS4 because they hated what the Xbox was doing. They didn't care.
That's a huge part of it.
Games.
That is a huge part of it.
The Xbox fell flat on its face. And the PlayStation played Fortnite and Rocket League and like all the other games that they actually, that they really wanted to play.
Yeah, and I think the third-party games, at the end of the day, the first-party games are a very small slice of the pie.
Right.
But I would argue that the culture derived from those first-party games matters, right? Because I, as a kid, right, as a teenager, would invite my friends over to my house and be like, look at this. We've never seen anything like this before, when I'm showing them Uncharted 2. And then we're glued to the screen, we're passing around the controller, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, Uncharted. PlayStation is the only place where we can play this. I want a PlayStation now because they make games like that. And there's so many cases of that where like there are people, they're kids trying out these games, sharing it, and just perpetuating that word of mouth that this is the place where you want to play games, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, like most people are there for like the Call of Duties, the FIFAs, and they're just kind of locked into that ecosystem. But the thing that keeps you there are the first party games, because you know that like, yeah, I can play these games on Xbox too, but like I'm also going to get occasionally these really good games that kind of define the flavor of this console.
Yeah. I guess I'm just coming from the perspective of like PC doesn't have first party games at all. So, and I still choose it every time just because it's where I like to play my games.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, that is changing, right? Like more and more games are coming to PC. PC is becoming this open platform that has all the games.
Right. But what I'm saying is there are people who are buying a PlayStation not because of those first parties, but because they are just brand loyal. Like there are people that just like PlayStation. They've been on it since the PS2 and they're going to buy it because they like the hardware. They like the controller. They like...
Well, I would argue the main reason is just, like you said, like the generation where Xbox fumbled is where people got locked into their digital ecosystem. So a lot of that is just momentum from that. Yeah, that can't be denied.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think that's what's saving them from what's going on right now. I think you've mentioned that as well.
Yeah,
From the mismanagement, they have a lot of momentum preserved from the.
They have
PS4.
momentum, but like they're not invincible. No one is invincible.
No,
and if you have enough of these bombs, things are going to change.
Yeah, people are going to get sick of it. People are going to move on,
and especially because like, yes, most people who enjoy these consoles are there for the third parties. But what happens if you take off your most loyal base, right? Like, I'm the PlayStation guy because I fell in love with your first party games, and now half of them are trash. Like, what are you going to do when you alienate people like me and you lose the core Sony faithful? I think things fall apart if that happens.
Could they do that though? To you personally, like, is there a
To me?
world where this continues and you wouldn't buy the next PlayStation, or it would no longer be your primary gaming console? Is that even a possibility?
I mean, as of now, they still have enough games, right?
Yeah.
Like, they still make, I mean, like God of War Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2,
Right.
Intergalactic. Like, these games were great and are going to be great. But if they keep following this live service path, then, like, I have to start asking questions, right? Like,
Okay. Yeah.
if these games are coming to PC anyway, and you're going to inundate this console with this fruitless effort with these failed games that I'm not even interested in, even if they come out. Right, like Helldivers 2 was the exception, not the rule. And I played it for like a month and I never touched it again. It's just not the reason why I buy a PlayStation, these kinds of games. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe Sony is okay with losing that audience because they know the other audience they could potentially get is so much more lucrative.
Right. I only ask like directly because I think you're the only like die-hard PlayStation fan that I know. Going down the list.
Yeah, I mean, but like, you know, they exist and they're angry.
I don't deny that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would never, I do not deny it. You're the only one I know.
Yeah. So,
I live in a
I don't know.
PC.
I just wanted to get those thoughts out there. My current dissatisfaction with Sony. Yeah, just do better. You have all these canceled games now, so you have an opportunity to start reversing the ship, but not if you put these studios on more live service games after you've canceled the existing ones, which is a possibility, right? They could still want to get that money, which is very ill-advised, I think.
But they have the studios that could do it. They have their Arrowhead. They have their.
They don't have Arrowhead though. Arrowhead is not a first-party studio.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I misunderstood. Arrowhead is Helldivers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but they have. Well, they don't have Bungie really, I guess either. Okay, so no, they don't.
They do have Bungie.
But Bungie, you said Bungie was different.
Bungie will put their games everywhere, but like the money still goes to Sony.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's Bungie,
Curious.
like we said, they're in peril.
Yeah.
If Marathon is not a massive hit, Bungie could go bye-bye, which would really suck because it would be very sad because Bungie is a historic developer.
I mean, the reason I brought up like could Sony fall was very recently Dragon Age: The Veilguard performed very poorly, and EA took a 17% haircut, I think, on their stock price because of that.
Yeah.
Which is like, one game should not be a fifth of the value of your company. That's not
Well, it was not
sustainable.
mostly because of Dragon Age,
It wasn't?
although that was part of it.
Okay.
But the other part of that news was that EAFC Sports 25 underperformed,
Interesting.
which is crazy because that was like the third or fourth best-selling game of the year, and it's still underperformed by their metrics, which is insanity.
That's why.
So
Yeah, those
I think,
metrics were made up. Yeah.
I don't know, like, and like obviously all these problems are exacerbated by like the rising costs of game development, people wanting more and more money, these success targets being higher and higher and higher. It's just
Right.
not sustainable. Yeah.
Thanks for
So I don't know.
clarifying that.
It's yeah, Sony, just do better, please.
Yeah.
Coming from your number one fan. All right. Yeah.
You
we want to talk about what we're playing?
Yeah. Oh, I have a good one.
All right. You want to go first then?
So I remember it was like a year ago. You were talking about Minecraft, a Minecraft mod pack.
Okay.
Oh, it's like it returned back to beta. So
I'm
I'm
better
gonna,
than Adventure.
Yeah, better than Adventure or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna one up you and consider this. What if there was a game that was Minecraft if it took a completely different angle?
Was this Vintage Story?
Yes, I've been playing Vintage Story.
Wow. Tell me about it because I don't know much about it. I just know it's like really
I've never
hard.
heard of this.
I bought it. I had watched a bunch of videos on it, and I decided it was time to take the dive and buy it.
Okay.
But it's Minecraft if Minecraft decided to focus more on its survival elements than its building elements.
Does it still have the building elements?
Yeah, the building elements are still
Okay.
there. There's a lot. Like
Okay.
they have roofs already.
Okay.
Minecraft doesn't even have shingled roofs.
Oh, you mean like roof blocks? Okay.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
dedicated roof blocks. But Vintage Story is a survival crafting game that focuses more on the survival aspect with a little bit of Eldritch horror in it.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a
I didn't
lot.
know that.
Yeah. Some areas of the map and underground will cause this little gear on your HUD to turn. Normally, it turns clockwise. If it starts turning counterclockwise, you're losing your temporal stability.
What?
And things start getting a little wild if you hit the bottom, and monsters will start spawning more frequently.
Interesting.
Up to and including right next to you.
Okay.
Like an Enderman style.
Like Enderman
situation.
style. And they're brutal.
Is this a multiplayer game?
It is multiplayer. It is multiplayer.
Are you playing it with anybody?
No, I have
Okay.
not. I've tested it out, and now I'm trying to get friends to buy it. But I realized it was a different game where to build an axe head, I had to grab 2 stones and manually carve out an axe head through a little mini game with the stones. And then I had to grab a stick and make an axe. And then I spent like 2 minutes chopping down a tree.
So actually crafting it is like you actually have to craft it. You don't just click a button and boom, you have an axe.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
There is a crafting grid, but to make an axe, you have to make an axe head, and you have to nap yourself an axe head out of stones and flint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a multi-step, more
There's-
complicated process.
Yeah, there's more complicated process. The same.
Do
with
you have to
making,
memorize all the like crafting shapes, or is there
No.
like a?
There's a guide.
Okay.
It's just an extra layer that's there.
Yeah. I like
same
that.
thing with blacksmithing too. I believe blacksmithing and making like metal tools is an involved process that I haven't got to yet.
I might have to check this out. This does sound up my alley.
Gathering firewood is important.
Yeah.
Keeping firewood, keeping a fire going.
Is it hardcore?
Um,
You
could turn it on and off of permadeath.
Okay.
If you really wanted to do permadeath, you can. There is seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So as you go towards winter, crops stop growing, animals stop producing eggs and everything. There are procedural storms. Like if you look out into the horizon and you see a big cloud, chances are it's rain or a thunderstorm.
That's sick.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be able to look and see what weather's about to hit you.
You're selling me on this, dude.
Yeah, it's so nice. I haven't gotten real deep into it. I haven't gotten to mining or anything.
Really?
So I can't describe
How much
that.
have you played?
You've only been doing the crafting, but not the mining.
I've made it to where I have a house.
Yeah, but like in hours. How much could you say?
Probably an hour or 2.
Okay. I was sitting here like, are you 6 hours into this game and you haven't made it underground yet? Like, I'm
No,
trying to
I
figure out the pace, I guess.
The pacing's nice. I mean, it definitely benefits from multiplayer because each person can kind of fit a job, and there are classes.
Right.
One of the nicest parts about it, though, is that since it's built as a mod for its own game, modding is super easy and officially supported. Like the website has its own mods, its own mod list that downloads
So like
directly to
Victoria
your
style.
game. Yeah,
Yeah.
it downloads directly to your game client.
That's sick.
And
This is on Steam, right?
no, it is not on Steam.
Oh.
You have to buy it either through their website or
Why?
Humble Store or Itch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but
That's the reason why it's not on Steam is it's a very niche game.
okay, but I've made a game that only like 100 people bought, and I released it on Steam.
Oh, it has simulated for soil fertility.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
How's
food
performance?
spoils. Performance, it's perfect. It
Okay,
performs
'cause
really well.
Minecraft Java still is so janky, and I always wonder about voxel games.
It's been in dev for 6 years.
Really? Okay.
There's bug bounties too. Or there's bounties for like improving simulations of certain aspects.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, they
So
do
to try
have
to get
bounties.
developers. Yeah. When you said bug bounties, like I didn't understand at first, and I was thinking like this has a bug catching game.
I didn't
like Animal
I didn't know
Crossing?
it had clay forming. Micro block editing's in there too. Oh, there's so much I
Really?
haven't touched yet. Yeah, I think you can take a
That's-
chisel. Like I
that's
know there's
fascinating.
a statue that you can like put blocks out and then carve your own statue out of it
How much
by
was
hand.
this?
I think it costed me $22.
God, I might have to.
21.
God help me.
Yeah, from the site it's 22.
Yeah,
I bought it for 21.20 on Humble because I'm a Humble Choice member.
nice.
It's
choice.
20
So
euros.
it's a
though.
Minecraft mod, right?
No, this is
No,
a
it
full
is
game.
a full game.
Oh, it's a full
It is
game.
not
Okay.
Minecraft.
It's Vintage Story is the game.
Yeah.
Vintage Story. I
I've
don't know why I
been
thought you said it
getting
was a mod.
the subreddit's been recommended to me a bunch lately, so I've been kind of.
It's been popping up in popularity because a lot of people are picking it up recently.
People are dissatisfied with Minecraft.
Yeah. Food spoilage is nice too. Having to like seriously consider how you're gonna store your food and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it's almost like a Don't Starve, a little bit of Don't Starve in your Minecraft.
Yeah.
But like,
There's
know, that's
automation at
reductive.
the end
It's
too.
What?
That you can automate at the end using
That's-
windmills and shafts and everything.
Nice. So like a little create in there.
Yeah, you can create your own querns, create an auto smithy, or an auto hammer that automatically hammers your stuff.
You're selling me.
It's so nice. And getting that far in the game does take a lot of time. Everything's
Yeah.
very slow and methodical. I spent 2 minutes chopping one block out of a tree, but the only
Oh,
good
wow.
part, the tree comes down when you chop out one block.
Okay.
So you get the whole tree. So if it's a big tree, it can take a lot of time and a
And that
lot
was
of
by hand, right?
yeah. Well, with an
Okay.
axe,
Oh, with an axe, it took
Yeah.
2 minutes.
it took maybe a minute and a half.
Okay.
It felt so long that I did not even realize I was breaking it.
Wow.
But that's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
Also,
Sounds
I
good.
think if you break blocks, they keep their block damage state, unlike Minecraft,
Okay.
which I don't know why Minecraft doesn't have block
Because
damage.
that's a huge amount of data to store
Yeah.
per block. Minecraft stores its blocks as like I think a single byte typically.
that
each
might
block?
that might just be a Java limitation as well.
Well, it will just like if you had to store another number that is like an HP for how durable it is, that is that's another byte per block.
You're just doubling
Yeah.
the size of the game.
One of their
Yeah.
one of their roadmap objectives is find alternatives to the 3x3 grid crafting system.
Mm.
Like it's there right now, but it's gonna disappear. They're
Oh,
gonna
so
add,
is this early access?
yeah, it's early access.
Okay. I'm not buying it yet then.
Quenching, tempering, and annealing for blacksmithing is going to be added at some point.
Yeah. What do you think hits 1.0 first, this or Hightail?
I don't know.
Probably this.
Leather workings in this game? Jesus Christ. Like this is the Dwarf Fortress of Minecraft, it looks
It
like.
sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds very immersive. A lot of like you could really just dive into the mechanics of this for a
Yeah.
long time.
The dev's super active too. I think they do a patch. Hold on, let me check their patch, their dev log. Roughly every week they do a dev log, it looks like, or a patch.
Wow, so like old school Minecraft cadence. Yeah.
Yeah. They
Those were the
added
days, dude. The
they
Secret Friday updates.
just added mounts and sailboats, I think, recently. Which that's nice. That is
Yeah.
wow. Build it. Wait, how does that sailboat construction system work? Because it looks like you build it in pieces.
You got any
I need to play more of this game.
any final Vintage Story thoughts?
Nah, if you like survival crafters and you want something that's a little more difficult than Minecraft, buy Vintage Story. A lot of potential to it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What do you got, Ahmed?
I'll be very quick. I haven't been playing much, but I did play more Dead Cells, and I finally finished a run.
Nice.
It's so good, man. It's such a good feeling, just getting better at the game. Obviously, there's an element of luck as well, because I had a really good build. The run that I won, I was basically just stacking all the status effects. I was like electrifying, burning, poisoning all at the same time.
Yeah.
And the health bar just sort of melted away for the final boss. But in traditional like roguelike fashion, the game really just opens up after you finish the run for the first time. You get a boss cell, which is a difficulty modifier. So each time you beat the game with the boss cell, you get another boss cell, bumps up the difficulty again, etc., etc. And yeah, it's a very hard game. I'm already getting my butt kicked with one boss cell.
So you've only got the one win.
But just the one win,
Okay.
but just doing that, right, like immediately changes the game. There are now doors that were previously inaccessible that are now open that you can go through, and they only open after you finish a run.
Yeah.
So It's really cool just seeing the progression, seeing how much is hidden. I still have way less than 50% of all the weapons and skills discovered, and I'm continuing to enjoy that. Like, obviously, there are references to so many different games. Most of them I don't even understand, but it's just Dead Cells is this, like I said last week, a love letter to indie games. On the run that I won, I discovered this new skill, and it was it was from Slay the Spire, and it's basically like a mini like deck mechanic that was built into the skill. So like you can draw a card, and it's one of the cards from Slay the Spire, and it has certain like active and passive effects and an effect on discard when you draw the card. And that's just all in one skill, right? And you have 2 skills and 2 weapons per run. So like all this mechanical depth in one skill, right? Like because they capture the whole like Slay the Spire draw discard mechanic in that card, in that skill, which I just thought was so cool. So like I'm continuing to discover like really neat skills and weapons like that. And yeah, I love this game. Can't get enough of it. Still, basically, I'm probably just gonna keep playing this until Civilization 7 comes out in a week.
Oh my god, yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll only talk about that for the next several months. So
Yeah, there's
yeah,
gonna be
Dead
a lot
Cells
of
is
that going
great.
around this year.
Yeah, I don't know how, like, cause I'm not going to keep at it until I beat it with like all the boss cells. I feel like that would just drive me crazy, but I'm not quite done with it yet. So gonna continue to play me some Dead Cells. What about you, Connor?
I have been playing, I blew the dust off of my Nintendo 3DS and started playing Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which was my entry point into the series. This was the first one that really did well in the West. I think it was the first one to break 1 million copies sold in America. And I'm just gonna set the scene for my first playthrough of this. It's February 13th, 2015. I bought this game on launch. So that's the day it came out. So this was about 10 years ago. And my first high school girlfriend, this is my senior year of high school, had just broken up with me. And so I went out and I bought a new 3DS XL and a copy of Monster Hunter 4U to cheer myself up. And I just fell into this game and I played it for like 100 hours. It was just like this whole world full of complexity that you could really bury yourself in. And it's really funny playing it now because I played about 6 hours of it. And I'm about halfway to what I was at in those 90 hours when I was a kid, just because I'm a Monster Hunter veteran now. I'm not losing, on your first, especially these old school Monster Hunter games. They're a little more difficult and resources are more scarce. So I was losing a lot of hunts back then, and I'm not losing hunts now. I don't believe I have lost a single hunt yet. But I love this game. I don't think I could in good conscience recommend it to someone who's not a huge Monster Hunter fan, because I did time it. And it was an hour and 17 minutes for me to slay my first monster, like from starting the game to first monster slain.
So it's just full of like cutscenes, tutorials, and stuff?
Not really tutorials and cutscenes. There were cutscenes, and those parts I actually have no problem with. I think they're really, really good for a 3DS cutscene. But they just really make you eat your vegetables. They make you go on a mission to gather herbs. They make you go on a mission to hunt small monsters. They make you go on a mission to cook a steak to give to someone, and you can't do that from in the town, so you have to sit through a load screen to get to the wilderness, hunt an Aptonath, cook it, and then deliver that. They just like really make you do that. So it was an hour and 17 minutes before I hunted my first monster, and even after that, you are not consistently hunting large monsters after that. They take you back to hunting small monsters for a while. It's probably 2 hours before you're like, all of your missions are cool large monster hunts. But once they are, I love this game. It's so charming in a way that I don't know that I think the modern Monster Hunter games are. I love the world. The story is the best in any Monster Hunter game. You're part of a group called the Capital C Caravan, and you are like going on an adventure. This guy called the Caravaneer. Nobody has names in this game, so you have like the Caravaneer is your leader. You are the Kindred Hunter. You have the Guild Marm who gives you your quests. You have Little Miss Forge and the Man working the forge. They just call him the Man. And even like the people in town don't have names, but they can assign you quests, and it just says their title next to the quest. and you go out and do it, and it's just really fun. And it's funny how little it's changed, because I thought it was going to be like super slow compared to the modern games, and none of my muscle memory was going to work, but that's not the case. It's really not that different from Monster Hunter World or Rise. The muscle memory transferred almost perfectly, and I really miss handheld gaming, I think. Like, I love the Switch, but the 3DS that actually fits in your pocket and can have 150-hour full action RPG experience like Monster Hunter in the palm of your hand.
I miss the clamshell handhelds, man.
Yeah.
Game Boy SP, DS, bring that back.
It's something special. And I don't know, Monster Hunter 4U, it has like a procedural dungeon system, kind of, that like you don't know what monsters you're going to run into, and you go through it and you can get good loot doing that. That's something I'd love to see them bring back, because sometimes you just want to go on a hunt and you don't want to have to think about what you're hunting. You can actually play this multiplayer again. Pretendo, the unofficial 3DS servers and Wii U, I think, servers, just got Monster Hunter 4U support, and it is actually, for the first time, it's cross-region, so you can play with Japanese players. I don't know how many. I'm not actually connected to that. I'm playing the single player stuff first, but it's cool. I wouldn't recommend this to someone who hasn't played World or Rise, because it doesn't do a good job of teaching you systems. I'd actually wager a substantial amount of those 90 hours I had in my save as a kid were me trying to figure out how to craft something, because it really doesn't hold your hand for that. But now that I know, it's a delight. I really, really like it. I don't think I'm going to have time to finish it, especially since I apparently have played 90 hours of it and never finished it. I don't think I'm going to have time to finish it before Wilds comes out, especially with Spider-Man coming. But it's a nice little something to hold me over, you know?
Yeah, very nice. And it's always fun to revisit like a DS or a Game Boy.
It is intensely nostalgic. Also, I mentioned to you my 3DS battery was acting up after several full charges and then playing it until it literally died in my hands. It's back to like a 4-hour battery life or something, 4 or 5
that's
hours,
good.
which is like probably what it was originally. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, by today's standards, that's totally fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I'm not complaining.
All right, we got anything else? Nope. All right, then, thank you all for listening. You can follow us at Podcast Game Talk on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky.
Are we on there now?
I just created a Blue Sky, so feel free
Blue
to
Sky now.
I'll
follow us there.
Yeah.
And please like, rate, and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or any other podcast services you use, and click the link in the description of the episode to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yeah, see y'all next week.
See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.